The man who invented the single-track train back in 1910 was an absolute genius, the great Irish inventor Lewis Brennan. He invented a train that only needed one track to run, not only to save the construction cost, but also theoretically to be safer than the ordinary train, because he will not derail at high speed turning. So how did it do it? To realize the train's single-track running, the first difficult problem to be solved is the balance. Lewis's method is to install a huge gyroscope inside the train. You can think of it as a high-speed rotating disc that keeps the train balanced by the torque of the rotation. But soon Lewis encountered a new problem, that is, how to make the gyroscope follow the direction of the train. If the direction of the gyroscope and the direction of the train is not consistent, then the train will lose balance. So Lewis came up with a genius method, that is, in the train and then install the gyroscope, let it and the first gyroscope rotate in reverse, and then use gears to connect them, so that when the train turns the two gyroscopes will restrain each other, so that the train is always balanced. Lewis's method was proven on the model, but when he used it to build a real monorail he encountered new difficulties. He found that his gyroscopes were too small, and their power was not enough to make a train station weighing tens of tons stand up. He wanted to make the gyroscopes bigger and heavier, but he realized that this would make it harder to balance the train, and there wasn't enough room in the train for such large gyroscopes, so he had to think of other ways to increase the power of the gyroscopes. So he added an engine to the gyroscopes to make them spin faster, and then put them on a bracket that could be rotated so that they could tilt as the train tilted. He also put two baffles on the gyroscope shafts so that when the train tilted, the shafts would hit the baffles and cause friction that would make the gyroscopes roll to one side, thus giving the train a reverse force to regain its balance. He thought this would be enough, but a new problem arose, that is, the vibration of the train would make the gyroscope jump around on the baffles, which would make the force of the gyroscope unstable, sometimes too big and sometimes too small. The train would be very uncomfortable rocking. So he came up with an even more genius solution, which was to use air pressure to control the power of the gyroscope. He fixed the gyroscopes to the train and then put a toggle on their shafts, which controlled two valves, which controlled the flow of compressed air. He also installed a large round tube on the train with a toothed piston inside, which pushed the gyroscope around. When the train is tilted, the gyroscope will drive the toggle will close a valve to open another valve, so that the compressed air from one side of the flow to the other side to promote the movement of the piston, and the piston will then push the gyroscope to rotate to let the train back to balance. The advantage of this method is that it can magnify a small amount of pressure into a huge force, because the compressed air has the same pressure inside the pipe, but by the time it reaches the large round pipe the pressure becomes so great that the piston will be strong enough to generate enough force in the gyroscope to balance the train. Fortunately this time Lewis's monorail was finally successful. Unfortunately the monorail was not widely used. This was because the monorail was very cumbersome to install gyroscopes in each car. Coupled with the fact that people at that time were already accustomed to double-track trains, the monorail train was gradually forgotten, but this does not affect today. We reappreciate its charm.